You too. It's Tone back with another one for you. So this one here is a continuation on Meet Your Strawman. So this is the number 9. I had to break this shit up into parts because there's a few different slides on this. It would have took a fucking hour. So I broke this bitch up into 3 parts, like little 20 minute pieces. So let's get right into this. So goaded by the private bankers, much of Europe supported the Confederacy against the Union, with the expectation that victory over Lincoln would mean the end of the greenback. France and Britain considered an outright attack on the United States to aid the Confederacy, but were held at bay by Russia, which had just ended the serfdom system and had a state central bank similar to the system of the United States had been founded on. Left free of European intervention, the Union won the war, and Lincoln announced his intention to go on issuing greenbacks. Following Lincoln's assassination, the greenbacks were pulled from circulation, and the American people were forced back into an economy based on banknotes borrowed at interest from the private bankers. And we're all private bankers, you know that shit. That's why we can make the money orders and the bills fucking disappear, because we can issue currency just the same as they can. Okay, so but there's a long process to it. You got to read, study, and learn about who you are before you start doing shit like that. So finally, in 1913, the private central bankers of Europe, in particular the Rothschilds of Great Britain and the Warburgs, which ended up becoming the Wahlbergs, right? You know them, of Germany, met with their American financial collaborators of Jekyll Island, Georgia, to form a new banking cartel with the express purpose of forming the third bank of the United States, with the aim of placing complete control of the United States money supply once again under the control of the private bankers. Owning, and I mean, nothing against private bankers, but these people are just on some grimy shit. So owning the hostility over the previous banks, the name was changed to the Federal Reserve. That's a private bank. It does not belong to the government system in order to grant the new banks a quasi-governmental image, but in fact it is a privately owned bank, no more federal than Federal Express. Indeed, in 2012, the Federal Reserve successfully rebuffed a Freedom of Information lawsuit by Bloomberg News on the grounds that a private bank corporation and not actually a part of the government, the Freedom of Information Act did not apply to the operations of the Federal Reserve because it's private. The year 1913 proved to be a transformative year for the nation's economy with the passage of the 16th Income Amendment and the false claim that it had been ratified. So just so you know, income tax is fucking illegal, and it always has been. It's voluntary. It's 100% voluntary. And you volunteer into it by signing that W-4. That's why you end up in a fucking agreement that if you stop paying, they can come fuck with you. But you can't get out of that agreement with a fucking rescission. So I think that if you were to go back and try to find and review the ratification of the 16th Amendment, which was internal revenue, the income tax, I think that if you went back and examined them carefully, you would find that a sufficient number of states never ratified that amendment. So it's not even legal for them to even tax people. It's funny, right? So later in 1913, apparently unwilling to risk another questionable amendment, Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act over the Christmas holiday, while members of Congress who were opposed to the measure were at home. This was a very underhanded deal, as the Constitution would explicitly grant Congress the authority to issue the public currency. It does not authorize it to delegate that authority to another party, and so it should have required a new amendment to allow Congress to transfer that authority to a private bank. You see that? So, but Congress passed it, and the President Woodrow Wilson signed it, as he had promised the bankers that he would in the exchange for the generous campaign contributions. Wilson later regretted that decision starting in 1919. So as you can see, they're fucking 100% fraudulent about everything that they do, and we're never even allowed to do that shit. But since they own the media, they can fucking convince people of whatever the fuck they want, right? Because everybody watches TV to get their fucking information, and it's not, it's not fucking facts. So I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is now controlled by its system of credit. We are no longer a government by free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men. They're not even dominant men. They're not even dominant men. So That very next year, World War One started, and is important to remember that prior to the creation of the Federal Reserve, there was no such thing as a world war, no profits and no wars. Look at that, huh? No wars for profit, and there was no wars in general until they started the Federal Reserve. I wonder why that is. They're all fucking fake wars, by the way. They're all fake wars. So you only see them on TV. So the First World War started between Austria, Hungary, and Serbia, but quickly shifted the focus to Germany, whose industrial capacity was seen as an economic threat to Great Britain, who saw the decline of the British pound as a result of too much emphasis on financial activity to the neglect of agriculture, industrial development, and infrastructure, not unlike the present-day United States. Although pre-war Germany had a private central bank, that bank was heavily restricted and inflation kept to reasonable levels. Under government control, investments was guaranteed to internal economic development, and Germany was seen as a major power. So in the media of the day, Germany was portrayed as the prime investigator of World War One, and subsequently not just defeated, but had its industrial base flattened. So following the Treaty of Versailles, June 1919, Germany was ordered to pay the war costs of all the participating nations. Even though Germany had not actually started the war, this amounted to 3 times the value of all of Germany itself. Germany's private central bank, to which Germany had gone deeply into debt to pay the cost of war, broke free of government control, and massive inflation followed, mostly triggered by currency speculators permanently trapping the German people in endless debt. And this is because these people do not understand what debt is and what money is. Because when you do understand that, then you know that all you have to do is assess the fucking charges, right? To fucking zero the goddamn account. It really is not that complicated. It's only complicated if you don't do any research on it. So they're trapping people with fake ass debt. Look at that. So when the Weimar Republic economically collapsed, it opened the door for the National Socialists to take power. Their first financial move was to issue their own state currency, which was not borrowed from private central banks. Free from having to pay interest on the money in circulation, Germany blossomed and quickly began to rebuild its industry. The media called it the German miracle. Look at that, a miracle by printing your own money and not having to use fucking their fiat bullshit. Time magazine lionized Hitler for the amazing improvement in life for the German people and the explosion of Germany, and even named him Time magazine's Man of the Year. I mean, it's your magazine. You can call whoever the fuck you want Man of the Year. Hitler was even fucking Man of the Year one time. You know what I'm saying? And they're all fucking actors and shit for the same fucking people that put on the show for everybody anyway. You know? So, and fucking that whole shit in Germany never even fucking happened either. That fucking Holocaust was a fucking lie too. There's all shit that they do to scare people into doing whatever the fuck that they want. I mean, all they really had to do was fucking get a couple actors to act like fucking people got burnt in a fucking gas chamber or whatever the fuck they did, and now everybody believes it. Were you there? You know what I'm saying? Cut it out. So once again, Germany's industrial output became a threat to Great Britain, resulting in these comments. Should Germany merchandise do business again in the next 50 years? We have led this World War II in vain. We will force this war upon Hitler if he wants it or not. And so this is all bullshit. It's just a bunch of actors, like you see them doing now. You know what I'm saying? Fucking CGI presidents and shit like that. So Germany becomes too powerful. We have to crush it. And they're crushing the people on fucking TV. They ain't even really doing nothing to anybody over there. They're just fucking showing it like they're really doing it on TV. Just like they're fucking doing now. Just like they're doing now. So this war is an English war, and its goal is the destruction of Germany. Germany's state-issued value-based currency was also a direct threat to the wealth and the power of the private central banks, and as early as 1933 they started to organize a global boycott against Germany to strangle this upstart ruler who thought he could break free of private central banks. And has been the case in World War I. Great Britain and other nations threatened by Germany's economic power looked for an excuse to go to war, and as public anger in Germany grew over boycott, Hitler foolishly gave them that excuse. Years later, in a spirit of candor, the real reasons for that war were made clear. The war wasn't only about abolishing fascism, but to conquer sales markets. We could have, if we intended to, prevented this war from breaking out without firing one single shot, but we didn't want to. Germany's unforgivable crime before World War II was that its attempt to loosen its economy out of the world trade system and build up an independent exchange system from which world finance couldn't profit anymore. We butchered the wrong pig. And so this is what they do a lot. They'll hire these fucking actors to come out and act like they're trying to help the people, right? And then when they get so far into what they're doing, then they'll fake hoax kill their fucking actors, to scare anybody from ever trying to fucking actually do the right thing because they think that they're gonna actually die when in all reality their fucking actor never even died. You see what it is? They're just mind fucking everybody, and everybody's taking the bait because everybody's so scared to die that they're fucking pussies and they just let people do whatever they want. So as a side note, we need to step back before World War II and recall Marine Major General Smedley Butter in 1933. Wall Street bankers and financiers had bankrolled the successful coups by both Hitler and Mussolini. Brown's Brothers, Hiram in New York, was financing Hitler right up to the day was declared with Germany. And they decided that a fascist dictatorship in the United States based on the one in Italy would be far better for their business interests than Roosevelt's New Deal, which threatened massive wealth redistribution and recapitalized the working and the middle class of America. So the Wall Street tycoons recruited General Butler to lead the overthrow of the U.S. government and install Secretary of General Affairs who would be answerable to Wall Street and not to the people, and would crush social unrest and shut down all the labor unions. So, I mean, you see what I mean? You know, all they're doing is infiltrating the fucking already existing organizations with people that have an obligation to a particular corporation, and then at that point they're going to be answerable to them, which they do a lot nowadays too with these secret organizations with people who are really sucking some other dude's dick behind the scenes that they got them on tape doing it, and then they're going to fucking blackmail you to death the whole time that you're in fucking office and shit. So you're literally selling out all your people because you're a cocksucking asshole that won't just come out of the fucking closet and say what the fuck you really are on some pussy shit. You know what I'm saying? Scared to be who the fuck they are, so they sell everybody else out. Come on. So General Butler pretended to go along with the scheme, but then exposed the plot to Congress. Congress then, as now in the pocket of Wall Street bankers, refused to act when Roosevelt learned of the planned coup. He demanded the arrest of the plotters, but the plotters simply reminded Roosevelt that if any one of them were sent to prison, their friends on Wall Street would deliberately collapse the still fragile economy and blame Roosevelt for it. Roosevelt was thus unable to act until the start of World War II, at which time he prosecuted many of the plotters under the Trading with the Enemy Act. And I mean, you guys should go look at the Trading of the Enemy Act too, where it clearly states that U.S. citizens are a enemy of the state, which they are, and that's why the U.S. citizens get treated how they do, which is a fiction in and of itself. How can you be a citizen of something that doesn't fucking exist? Let's say being a citizen of Walmart. That's just a business. All right? So you should know that. The congressional minutes into the coup were finally released in 1967 and became the inspiration for the movie 7 Days in May, but with the true financial villains erased from the script. So you got to be careful with the shit that you read too, because first of all, who the fuck's writing it? You don't even know who the fuck even wrote the shit, or if it's even true. Which for the most part, a lot of the shit you read about history is a straight fucking lie. All right. So I spent 33 years and 4 months in active military service as a member of the country's most agile military force, the Marine Corps. I served in all commissioned ranks from the second lieutenant to major general. During that period, I spent more of my time being a high-class muscle man for the big businessmen, for Wall Street, and for the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer, a gangster for capitalism. I suspected that I was just a part of a racket at the time. Now I am sure of it. Like all members of the military profession, I never had an original thought. I left the service. My mental faculties remained in suspended animation while I obeyed the orders of the higher-ups. This is typical with everyone in the military service. Thus, I helped make Mexico, and especially Tampico, which is apparently a city in Mexico, save for American oil interest in 1914. I helped make Haiti and Cuba revenues. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the national city bank boys to collect revenues in. I helped in the raping of half a dozen Central American republics for the benefit of Wall Street. The record of racketeering is long. I helped purify Nicaragua for the International Banking House of Brown Brothers in 1909 to 1912. I brought light to the Dominican Republic for American sugar interests in 1916. In China in 1927, I helped to see that it was Standard Oil went on its way unmolested during those years. I had, as the boys in the back room would say, a swell racket. I was rewarded with honors, medals, and promotions. Looking back on it, I feel like I might have given Al Capone a few hints that he could do what he was doing to operate his racket in 3 city districts. I operated on 3 continents. General Smedley Butler, former U.S. Marine Commander. So you see what that is? So this is an example of the people that they're hiring to pretend to be military, throw on a fucking uniform, and rape and pillage other fucking countries under the guise of freedom and shit like that. All right. So, as President John F. Kennedy understood the predatory nature of the private central bank, he understood why. And I mean, I'm not gonna hold nothing against anybody because everybody's got choices to make, and I wouldn't want to take somebody's free will away from them. But you got to understand that how many people had to pay the price for these people's selfish fucking behaviors. So, and so now they have to pay the fucking price. You know what I'm saying? So, because you have to let somebody commit the crime before you can fucking punish them, and that's the fucked up part of it. So it is what it is, right? So second, Kennedy wrote and signed Executive Order, whatever the fuck that is, 1111, which ordered the U.S. Treasury to issue a new public currency, the United States note. Kennedy's United States notes were not borrowed from the Federal Reserve, but created by the U.S. government and backed by the silver stockpiles held by the U.S. government. It represented a return to the system of economics on which the United States had been founded. And this was perfectly legal for Kennedy to do. All told, some $4.5 billion went into the public circulation, eroding interest payments to the Federal Reserve and loosening their control over the nation. 5 months later, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And mind you, that was fake too. And the United States notes pulled from circulation and destroyed. So this is another fucking example of the things that they do. So John F. Kennedy, right? He was supposed to be in there trying to help free everybody from the central banks and all that. Creating the fucking silver dollar or the gold back dollar again and all that. Another fucking actor of theirs. And then he supposedly died. He never got killed. You know what I'm saying? He never got killed. And why don't you take, a matter of fact, if you want to get into it, you can go take a close look at Carter. If you really want to see what the fuck happened to John Kennedy. Why don't you go take a look at Carter and shit. Look at John F. Kennedy and fucking President Carter side by side. Look at their fucking faces. So John J. McCloy, president of the Chase Manhattan Bank and president of the World Bank, was named as part of the Warren Commission, presumably to make certain that the banking dimensions behind the assassination were concealed from the public. As we enter the 12th year of what future history will most certainly describe as World War III, we need to examine the financial dimensions behind the wars. And that's exactly what it is, man. If you follow the money, you're always going to find what the fuck really happened, right? So this is a fucking game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these fucking assholes. They ain't even that good at what they do. They're not even that good at what they do. You people have just been fucking dumbed down and can't even connect the dots on your own. So here the fuck I am, telling you the truth. So that's what I got for you for now. Until we meet again.